How outrageous do you have to be before the internet's most unshockable stars finally say, enough? IShowSpeed found that limit and bulldozed straight past it. In the next few minutes, you'll see why a squeaky-clean Fortnite legend banned him for life, how a $1 million crypto pitch almost crushed his channel, and why even the controversy-loving Tate brothers drew a hard line. NBA icons, gaming giants, and the very GOAT who inspired Speed's entire persona now refuse to share a room with him. This isn't just another streamer drama montage, it's a timeline of burned bridges so spectacular it could light up Times Square. Stick around, because the last name on our list isn't just a celebrity, it's the one person Speed built his entire brand around, and their final rejection changes everything. Ready? Let's dive in before the next meltdown starts. Not every online feud begins with insults, but when IShowSpeed collided with Nick A30, it ended in total shutdown. Nick, a Canadian Fortnite streamer famous for his squeaky-clean, family-friendly content, invited Speed to play in his popular Simon Says custom game. It seemed like a fun crossover, until Speed decided to completely wreck it. Ignoring the game's rules, Speed pulled the trigger when he wasn't supposed to, ruining the session for everyone. Nick's reaction was swift and brutal. Ban him. Make sure he never joins my customs ever again. That wasn't just a gaming ban, it was personal. And while Nick tried to keep things professional, Speed was busy celebrating like he'd just won a championship. "I always wanted to grief Nick A30, he shouted with pride. Amazingly, Nick gave him another chance months later, this time in a themed roleplay. But Speed didn't change. He broke character, mocked Nick's instructions, and eventually turned the stream into another chaotic mess. The final straw came when Nick joked about Speed not winning a charity match. Speed lost it. He snapped back with insults targeting Nick's looks, saying no woman would date a bald guy from Canada with glasses. And when Nick begged him to keep it appropriate, Speed doubled down, making sexually crude comments in front of Nick's underage audience. Nick has collaborated with streamers like Ninja and MrBeast without any issues. But Speed? He's the only creator Nick has ever banned permanently. That's how fast things can fall apart when you bring chaos into a world built on clean content. But if you think griefing in Fortnite is bad, wait until you see what happens when crypto kids and a fake Ronaldo get involved. What happens when a chaotic streamer mixes celebrity worship with a shady crypto deal? You get one of the most embarrassing PR disasters in YouTube history. In July 2023, IShowSpeed teased his fans with what looked like the biggest moment of his life, a live stream meetup with none other than Cristiano Ronaldo. The thumbnail promised greatness, the hype was massive, but what fans got was a man in a cheap Ronaldo knockoff jersey wearing a Paradox Crypto to the Moon shirt. It didn't take long before fans realized this wasn't a wholesome meet and greet. It was a full-blown crypto ad targeting kids, disguised as content. Speed's chat blew up with accusations, calling it a scam in real time. And then it got worse. Speed thought his mic was muted. It wasn't. On a hot mic, he was caught panicking, confessing that he knew exactly what was going on. "You sold out? They're using you," one of his crew muttered in frustration. Speed scrambled to calm the situation, telling fans to ignore the chat and just relax. But the damage was done. Enter CoffeeZilla. The internet's most feared scam buster launched a 2-hour takedown of Paradox Live, exposing the entire thing as a textbook get-rich-quick scheme. When he confronted the project's founders live on stream, they couldn't even answer simple questions. "Is advertising 10x to 100x returns a scam?" Coffee asked. Their response? Circular nonsense and stalling? Moist Car1 Tikal joined in too, calling the whole thing like bashing your head against a brick wall. Viewers agreed. Speed had officially sold out, and to the worst possible crowd, kids. It was a rare moment where the internet didn't laugh, it cringed. But if you think exploiting crypto to kids is where the controversy ends, you're wrong. Because next up, Speed does something so outrageous in public that even Andrew Tate had to say, "This is disgusting." You'd think IShowSpeed's worst moment would involve trolling or saying something outrageous online, but nothing prepared anyone for what he did during a real-world stream in Denmark. While walking through a busy street, interacting with fans and strangers, Speed turned to a baby in a stroller and screamed directly in its face. The baby immediately burst into tears. The mother looked horrified. And the father? He stormed in, visibly furious, confronting Speed on the spot. What followed was a clumsy series of apologies. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." But it was too late. The damage had already been done. on camera, in front of thousands. The clip exploded online, and the backlash was instant. But what made it nuclear was the reaction from some of the most controversial figures on the internet, the Tate brothers. Andrew Tate, who usually avoids online drama unless it boosts his brand, posted a direct condemnation. Did IShowSpeed really just scream at a baby, then let his giant bodyguards intimidate the father? These clowns are out of control. Disgusting. He didn't stop there. In a live stream, Tate added, "If you screamed in my baby's face, I'd knock you out. I'd knock out your bodyguard too. You can't hide behind a guy just because he's 6'4". I'm 6'4", and I'd take you both down." And then came Tristan Tate's response, which shocked even Speed's most loyal fans. He called Speed a monkey, criticized his erratic behavior, and said he acted like an animal on stream. Even after being called out for racism, Tristan doubled down, saying he'd never acted that way in public, no matter his background. Let's pause for a second. This is Andrew and Tristan Tate, the self-proclaimed kings of controversy, saying that Speed crossed a line. When the internet's most shameless provocateurs tell you to tone it down, maybe it's time to listen? But Speed didn't. He kept pushing the limits. And next, he'd make one of the most painfully awkward impressions in podcast history, on an NBA legend who couldn't stand even being in the same room with him. When IShowSpeed landed a seat on Impulsive alongside Logan Paul and NBA superstar Kevin Durant, it should have been a career milestone. Instead, it turned into one of the most uncomfortable celebrity encounters ever caught on camera. From the moment Speed entered the room, things were off. He immediately went full fanboy mode, blurting out how he owned every KD sneaker, from the 7s to the 8s. Durant didn't smile. He didn't thank him. Instead, he shut it down instantly with a cold, "Bro, get off my..." before catching himself and redirecting. The energy shift was obvious. It got worse. Speed wouldn't stop staring at Durant, like, intensely. At one point, KD literally had to call him out. "Yo, you're gazing into my eyes, bro, back up." Speed laughed it off, but the damage was done. The tension was thick, and KD's patience was wearing thinner by the second. Trying to lighten the mood, Speed switched gears into dating advice. "So why are you single, KD? I feel like you got your heart broken one time." It was awkward. Durant hit back with, "Stop talking to me like I need advice." And then came the final nail. "You can't compare yourself to me. You're 16. You've only got one resource, and that's your hand." Logan Paul was speechless. The entire room knew this wasn't banter. It was KD openly roasting Speed in real time. Later in the episode, KD even told Speed to stick to sports that use your feet after trashing his basketball skills. The clip went viral instantly, with fans calling it the most awkward podcast moment of the year. Logan later admitted on stream that he knew Speed was making KD uncomfortable, but didn't know how to stop it. But, as embarrassing as it was to get clowned by an NBA legend on a global podcast, Speed's next move would burn something way deeper, something built over a decade into ashes in just under an hour. And when it comes to gaming royalty, Ninja sits at the top. Millions of followers, collaborations with celebrities, and a carefully curated digital sanctuary built over a decade. But all it took was one live stream with IShowSpeed, and everything unraveled in under 60 minutes. In November 2023, Ninja made the mistake of inviting Speed to join him for a chill Fortnite session. It was supposed to be harmless content, a crossover of two megastars. But during the stream, Speed casually pulled up his screen, and without realizing it, leaked the invite link to Ninja's private Discord server. This wasn't just any server. It was a hidden hub where some of the biggest names in entertainment connected: Drake, Travis Scott, Marshmello, pro Fortnite players, and streaming legends. A tight-knit circle, built carefully over years. Within seconds, the link spread like wildfire. Thousands of fans crashed in, flooding the server with spam, memes, and even inappropriate content. Ninja was blindsided, his safe space gone in an instant. When confronted, Speed tried the classic defense. "I didn't do it on purpose," but the receipts were clear. Even Speed's own fans were saying, "Bro, you leaked it." It's over. Ninja was devastated. On stream, he called the server his sanctuary, a space he'd protected for years, and now he had to delete it completely. No backup, no recovery, just gone. And what made it worse? Speed didn't seem to grasp the scale of what he'd done. He later said, "Now I feel bad," but by then, it was too little, too late. Since that day, Ninja has refused to speak positively about Speed in any interview. He avoids any mention of him entirely. The trust was broken, and just like that, Speed lost access to one of the most powerful names in the industry, because he couldn't keep a screen share clean. But if you think leaking one phone number or one server is bad, what happens when you do it multiple times to someone who trusted you? Ask KSI. Because the next chapter, it's personal. At one point, IShowSpeed and KSI looked like the perfect chaotic duo. Their streams were electric, their chemistry unmatched, and fans couldn't get enough. But behind the scenes, Speed was slowly burning every bridge between them, and it all started with a single phone number. During a stream in May 2023, Speed accidentally leaked KSY's personal number live. Within seconds, KSY's phone was blowing up with non-stop calls and texts from fans. Speed, caught red-handed, went into panic mode. "I'm sorry, bro. I swear I didn't mean it." KSI was clearly furious, but tried to laugh it off. That is, until Speed did it again. And again. By the third leak, KSI wasn't just annoyed, he was done. He started calling Speed a professional leaker and openly mocked him in public appearances. And it didn't stop with the leaks. Speed began mocking KSI's appearance, especially his well-known forehead. Chat, when's the last time you've seen KSI without his headband? 2010? 2008? He joked again and again. In one uncomfortable stream, Speed even pressured KSI to remove his headband live. When KSI finally did, Speed burst out laughing. "Bro, how do you have a girlfriend with a forehead that big?" Then came the final straw. In a live stream, Speed jokingly asked his viewers, "Hey chat, should I leak KSI's address?" Even if it was a joke, the internet didn't find it funny, and neither did KSI. Their relationship hit rock bottom during a charity football match. While most players were having fun, Speed sprinted across the field and body-checked KSI so hard he hit the ground. Speed celebrated like he scored a goal. KSI barely reacted, but after that day, he kept his distance for good. Today, the once friends barely acknowledge each other. KSI now refers to Speed as IShowMeet or IShowSlow, and sources close to KSI confirm he refuses to share any personal information with Speed for obvious reasons. But if betraying KSI's trust wasn't enough, Speed would soon take things even further, breaking one of the most sacred rules in content creation. Never violate your best friend's family. And what he did next to Aiden Ross? Unforgivable. There was a time when IShowSpeed and Aiden Ross were the internet's most chaotic duo. From 2021 to 2022, they broke the internet nearly every time they streamed together. They were unpredictable, hilarious, and totally in sync. But underneath the viral clips and jokes was a friendship hanging by a thread, and it finally snapped in the most personal way possible. It all started with Speed doing what he always seems to do, leaking something he shouldn't. During a live stream, he accidentally revealed Aiden's phone number to tens of thousands of viewers. The moment Aiden realized it, he was furious. "Yo, that's not cool, bro. You leaked my number." Speed denied it at first. "No, I didn't. Stop lying on my name." But the evidence was already out there. Eventually, Speed admitted the truth. "Damn, I actually did leak it." But instead of apologizing, Speed deflected blame, saying the leak wouldn't have been noticed if Aiden hadn't brought it up. "Why you even say something? Nobody saw it until you reacted?" Aiden was stunned, and fans started to see a disturbing pattern. Incredibly, this wasn't a one-time accident. Speed would go on to leak Aiden's number 2 more times in the months that followed. Each time, the excuse was the same. It was an accident. But even his most loyal fans were running out of patience. Then, in a shocking twist, Aiden finally snapped. After the third leak, he did something no influencer ever does. He retaliated. Aiden went on Twitter and publicly leaked Speed's number in return, tweeting, "My number got leaked by Speed, 3rd time, here's his." It was a dramatic moment, but what came next shattered their friendship beyond repair. During a FaceTime call, Speed pulled one of the most inappropriate moves of his career. While screen sharing, he opened up OnlyFans and showed Aiden explicit content of Aiden's own sister. Let that sink in. Aiden hung up instantly. He later recounted the story on stream in disbelief. "This dude FaceTimes me, screen shares, and shows my sister NDE, bro. Who does that?" After that, the line was permanently crossed. While they've occasionally appeared civil in public, insiders confirm the truth. Aiden doesn't trust Speed anymore. Not with his number, not with his family, not with anything. And if breaking friendships, leaking private info, and humiliating close allies wasn't bad enough, Speed still had more chaos to unleash. What he said to a female streamer next would get him banned from an entire platform. Permanently. Before Speed was a YouTube megastar, he was Twitch's rising wildcard. But all of that came crashing down in December 2021, when one disturbing moment changed his entire career trajectory. At just 16 years old, Speed joined one of Aiden Ross's infamous e-dating streams. The guest, Instagram model Ash Cash. The vibe started out light, playful, until Speed took a dark and twisted turn. He leaned forward, looked her dead in the eyes, and asked one of the most unsettling questions ever aired on Twitch. If we were the last two people on Earth, would you reproduce with me? Ash Cash, clearly uncomfortable, responded with a logical no, explaining how their children would be genetically intertwined. Speed didn't take rejection well. In fact, he escalated things into full-on threatening territory. "Who's going to stop me?" he repeated, eyes locked onto the camera. "If we're the last two people on Earth, who's going to stop me? You're not stopping me." The tone was chilling. The chat froze. Even Aiden yelled for him to stop. But Speed kept going, with the kind of intensity that instantly made everyone uncomfortable. Within hours, Twitch issued a permanent ban for sexual coercion or intimidation. No warnings, no strikes, just done. Speed was blacklisted from one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, and for nearly 2 years, that ban stuck until one unexpected moment flipped the script. At the 2023 Streamy Awards, fellow streamer Kai Kanat shocked the crowd by confronting Twitch's CEO, Dan Clancy, live on camera. "You've got to unban Speed, man. It's time." Clancy laughed awkwardly, dodged the question. But the pressure was real. Just a few weeks later, Speed was unbanned. His account was restored. On stream, a visibly emotional Speed celebrated. "I was 16 when I got banned, bro. I'm a man now. I got hair on my chin. My voice deeper. I'm different." But the celebration was short-lived. Because while Twitch may have given him a second chance, the internet never forgets. And unfortunately for Speed, he wasn't done testing the limits. In April 2022, during a match of Valorant, Speed went viral again, for all the wrong reasons. After missing some shots, a female teammate lightly criticized him. That's all it took for Speed to explode. "Shut your nerd ass up. There's a female talking to me right now. Get off the game and go do your husband's dishes." The clip spread like wildfire. Fans, creators, even journalists started calling for action. Riot Games, the publisher behind Valorant, didn't hesitate. They didn't just ban Speed from Valorant, they banned him from all Riot games, permanently. A Riot producer tweeted, "This is a huge yikes. We do not want players like this in our community." It was one of the harshest punishments ever given to a major creator, and it sent a message. No matter how big you are, there's a line. And Speed had just crossed it, again. But the corporate fallout didn't end there, because in the very next chapter, one of the most respected sports media brands in the world would bring Speed into the spotlight, only to regret it almost immediately.